start co-chair Lance. Co-chair Toya is going to be absent today.
Okay. And I'm going to do my best to do the co-chair today.
Okay.
Good
Do you
afternoon.
want me to share the agenda, or do you have one?
I do have one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll begin this meeting on March 6, 2024 at 12:02 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Rose, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Let's see. Commissioner Cuddy-Eye? Commissioner Cuddy-Eye? Okay, Commissioner Curley?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Toya is excused absence. And then Co-Chair Lance is here. Commissioner Hosky?
I am here.
Okay, and if you can keep your camera on, that'll be awesome. And then Commissioner Kai Batoni?
Here.
And then Commissioner Marks?
Here.
And Commissioner Marshall? And Commissioner Zavala?
Here.
Okay, back to you, Co-Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on to item 3, which is the land acknowledgement. I'd like to see if one of the other commissioners would be able to say that for us. Anybody want to volunteer? I guess me being the co-chair, can I say the land acknowledgement? Okay. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's Indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to Indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. Next item is public comment. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment? Okay, I guess there are no comments at this time. Next item would be approval of minutes for October 4th, 2023. Get a motion to approve the minutes as is or approve with amendments. Can I get a second on that
Second.
approval? Thank you, Ms. Zavala. Second one is another approval of minutes on November 8th, 2023.
Co-Chair
Motion to-
Lance?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll need a vote on that first one.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so back to the first approval of minutes, October 4th, 2023. We need a vote.
All in agreement, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, pass unanimously. Go on to the next one.
Okay. So next approval of minutes is for November 8th, 2023. Need a motion to approve as is or approve with amendments. Second on that. Anyone?
I second it.
Thank you.
Is that Commissioner Kai Batoni? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so this one we need a vote
Yes.
to approve. We get and approval?
Or a second?
A second, yes.
Anybody second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It looks like. And we can move on to the next one, correct?
We need a vote. Did you vote on the second one? I didn't catch that one.
That's what we're doing right now, yeah.
All those who approve, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? So the minutes are approved as is. Okay.
Okay.
I believe you did the third one.
Approval of minutes for January 10th, 2024. Motion to approve minutes as is or approve with amendments. All these approved, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
We need one more.
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Okay. And these, this next approval of minutes is for December 6th, 2023, February 7th, 2024 meetings.
This is just informational. There's no minutes.
Okay,
And this is just information that the Indigenous Commission did not have an official meeting on December 6th. And the time was scheduled for a potluck social gathering. There was no official discussions at that time. And then, but a possible quorum notice was posted. A quorum was not achieved for the February 7th meeting, and the meeting was canceled. Okay, you can go on to number 5.
okay. Number 5 is general business, possible vote. First item is update on Thorpe Park and the Indigenous Community Cultural Center. Is it PROS? Is that how you say it, or PROS? Staff?
Pros.
Okay, great. Pro staff will provide an update of the work at Thorpe Park and the current status of the proposed ICCC. The Indigenous Circle of Flagstaff will be informed and invited.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Hagan. I'm with PROS, Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Events. Here to give an update on some of the work that's been done. And I'm going to share a map if that's okay with everyone. Let me know if there's any difficulty in seeing the map. Is my screen sharing properly?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm just going to orient everyone and familiarize all of us with this property. So what's highlighted here in light blue, that would be the entire expansion piece of the regional park for Thorpe Park, roughly 8.5 acres. Down here in this green triangle, that is also a part of Thorpe Park, but that is a leased space to an urban farm incubator called Ruby Gardens. So that space we're electing to stay out of for this expansion piece at this time. And then right here in the center, this light colored rectangle is the future Indigenous Community Cultural Center, and that's that historic stone building on site. So a couple updates. A couple months ago, we Parks and Recreation worked with our water services department, so that way we could start to do some checks. There was a water leak just about maybe 50 feet off from the stone building. So we did mitigation efforts on that. So have fixed the water leak, have abandoned whatever water lines that were no longer in use, and still have a few other things I'd like to do on site regarding water and sewer to this entire site. Still some checks and balances to cover, as well as ensure that we've got all water lines intact with no leaks and also going to the proper locations. So still some work to do there. And that is all funding that Parks and Recreation that we have budgeted for to continue to work on some remediation and mitigation of this area. Any questions regarding water and sewer and the status of that? And again, the goal was to get all proper utilities back intact to this building and make sure that they were functional. All right, if no questions on water, sewer, this yellow line. Oh, go ahead. I see a hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Marks.
This is Commissioner Marks. With the facilities that are the utilities that are there, sorry about that. What's functional right now and what needs to be like worked on or processed?
Still reviewed. Great question. So potable water is now functional. It was turned off because of that leak that we were able to get repaired. I do have on schedule a plumber to come out and just continue to review all potable water lines going to this building and to other buildings on site, including the sustainability offices. And then I want a check done with all sewer service lines and ensure that those are all functioning and working properly as they should. There is electricity is just fine, and that works to this building as well as some of the other buildings on site. There still is internet cabling that exists. The cabling actually goes off this building and goes out to a bunch of other buildings within the park, including sustainability offices and the park shop that's just on the other side of those softball fields. So all other utilities are functioning, but I do still want to have a plumber check for water, potable water and sewer. Was there another hand up or did that hand go down?
Another hand up. I'd like to ask a question. This is Commissioner Lance. Do you know if this is the building where they had the Fix-It clinic in like a couple weeks ago?
This is not that building. That building, Commissioner Lance, is our Josie Montoya Senior and Community Center. I'm going to move just a little bit on the map. That is right over here by the tennis courts where the Fix-It clinic was occurring, where we had the electrical issue.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
The reason why I was mentioning was because there was somebody there who had some electrical knowledge, and you know, they weren't able to get into any of the electrical panels there. It required some keys.
It did.
And I guess nobody had those keys, so they had called the maintenance department. They came out and drilled it out or something like that to be able to get in there to reset breakers. So I take it all this preliminary work with the plumbing and electrical, basically all the utility services are in preparation for this upcoming renovation for the Indigenous Community Cultural Center, or are we just trying to get all those working?
I wanted to ensure that all of those were in working order, especially when we're dealing with water and sewer. You know, the electrical work there, it is on this site, is as it was when it was being utilized as a fleet mechanic area. So there's actually quite a bit of power in this location, but that doesn't mean that that's where all the power would want to be with any future renovations, but I do know it does function and work. And that issue the other weekend at the Fix-It clinic was merely access to electrical panels, and no one had keys to get into them. So yep, we had to unscrew the panel doors off and then be able to reset the breakers, and have now since rekeyed it and everyone has keys.
All right, great. Just
Yep.
kind of wondering, since electrical is, that's kind of in my wheelhouse, so just kind of wondering about that, you know, those services would be, or those kind of panels would already be checked out and maybe keys made available in this building, you know, to maintenance or staff.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Once that happens for the renovation. That is all.
Was there another hand up? Apologize. Hard for me to see if hands are up with sharing a screen.
I don't think so, Amy. I think you're good to
Okay.
continue.
Okay, so then moving on to what this yellow bold line is. So another bid that Parks and Recreation solicited for is we want to remove the perimeter chain link fence around the property. So we just received bids on that. Our procurement team at the City of Flagstaff is working on the agreement. And I would guess that by the end of March, that fence will be down. That will include any of the concrete footers with the posts and then all the chain link fencing. So to really open up the site, which was one of the steps that all of us wanted to take the last time we spoke, just to start the process on the cleanup and just honestly the healing of the site. This is North Aztec Street right here, which is a roadway that can take individuals to a parking lot back here as well as Francis Short Pond. So along that roadway, similar to what's just south of it right here, the parks team will be placing boulders so that way we can prohibit any vehicular activity coming off the road and onto this property. So once the fence goes down, then the boulders will go up. I do know that one of the next steps that we had spoken about a few months ago was after the fencing goes down, would we want to organize some type of landscape or tree cleanup? And I would love to talk about that as the next step with the commission, if that is still a desire to do. Again, first step needs to be for that fence and those posts and those footers to come out. And then we really have a nice canvas to work with on doing some cleanup or any other suggestions as we continue to prepare the site for the future.
Amy, you got one thumbs up.
I've got a thumbs up. I see your
And-
hand is up, Commissioner Marks. I've now increased my screen so I can see everyone's faces.
And so my question is with, after the fence comes down, is there a timeline for when the boulders would go into place? And then you were talking about a little bit more of a like maintenance or care around the space. Is there a timeline for that as well?
There is, Commissioner Marks. So again, my goal is to have this fence down by the end of March. And then immediately following that, parks, we need to have, we'll stage the boulders and immediately place them the day that the fence is down, because we wouldn't want any gap in time there with vehicular traffic that we know does visit the pond or that back parking lot by those softball fields. And then would love to figure out a time, especially before our school season is up by the end of May. Could we figure out if there was an opportunity to do any type of volunteer work with our adjacent schools there, including NAU, if there was a student group that was interested, and if not, can also work with sustainability offices and any volunteer groups they may have that have an interest in working with any landscape type removal or debris. Because I think we have a large opportunity, as you can kind of see around this perimeter, and I can always remove that yellow line, but there's some trees and some growth. The trees are okay, and those are healthy. Would love to keep those. It's some of the saplings that are down below that are mixed within the chain link fence that really need some cleanup. And then we would have an area to take a look at and say, okay, what next step would we like to do to further this? There should be some excess funds from even this fence removal and the boulders and any of the utility work this fiscal year for Parks and Recreation. And then there are some funds that Parks and Recreation has identified and scheduled for next fiscal year. The dollar value of that is $200,000, and that could be toward future mitigation or remediation, including within the building itself. If there's anything that I would really like to use the brain trust of this commission group and city staff that participate in this to figure out honestly what are the next steps that we would like to take. Go ahead, Commissioner Marks.
When are you looking to get that input from this group?
Is that anything that I could ask today, or at least start the conversation today, so that we could start planning?
Great. With that said, I know that there are a number of young people who have been going to the site to clean up around that fence area and have been doing their best to make sure that litter and any other things that might blow into the area are picked up and cleaned up. There were raised concerns about the glass on the building that's being busted. And then how do they go about, like, how can they help support replacing those panels, or ways that they can advocate for that? And then now that we're coming into the growing season, they're looking at planting. They actually planted and seeded a number of things last month, and they've been caring for that at their homes, but they're wanting to bring some of those into the site. So that's why I was asking about timelines and what that might look like. When you're talking about the mitigation and remediation within the building, what is the schedule of like rooms that you would address first?
Have not figured it out to that level of detail, but I think that we need to have some meetings within the next, honestly, 30+ days. I think the easiest location from my lens and knowing the inside of the building well to take a look at first is the office area, where there are some functional restrooms. There is office spaces, drywalled areas, doors, those types of features that exist today could definitely use some cleanup or possible some slight remodeling. Again, light tenant improvement type work. The area that will have a greater need no matter what is the area that was used for more of fleet mechanic shop. That space is certainly not ready to be occupied at a certain level. So maybe if we focus our efforts over on the office side, that could be best. That would be a suggestion of mine on that piece of it. I do know that both, actually all three of us, Rose and Rebecca Sayers and we need to meet and perform some type of procurement for the building itself, just to follow all of our procurement rules and laws on that and policy. So that way we can have an actual procurement process and solicitation stating XYZ will be the leaseor or licensee of the building. And that really starts then to also, I think, set the tone for then what areas are funds generated or provided, or what grant funding do city staff go and seek to start to continue to rehab the entire space.
Could I ask a follow-up to that?
Always.
Awesome. Now, with the processes that you're looking at, and in asking for the commission here to participate, how is there an opportunity for the commission themselves to visit the space? One, so that we have a better idea as a collective whole what we're in support of and how we can contribute to the timelines and ideas of what certain projects that might need to be done within the space, so that we know how to help advocate for that. And then is there opportunity for the commission to be participant to some of that, some of those processes that you have to be a part of, especially when it's looking at funding for the greater space?
Yes, I think so. And Rose, are there any of those questions you want to take the lead on answering?
I think the question on whether or not the commissioners would like to visit the space is a good idea, and I think we can arrange that based on, some of the thing, based on working it out with Amy and Rebecca. And then also maybe Mark, I'm not sure. So those are things that we can do. I think it is also good to maybe have the commissioners, once they visit the space, they can come up with maybe some suggestions or recommendations as to how some of these timelines might fit into with what PROS is looking at. So that would be a good thing to also come together on. Councilmember Matthews?
Thank you, Rose. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's a little low.
My headset died, so
Oh, no.
how about now? Can you hear me better?
I think it's better, yes.
So I was just curious in understanding, Amy, you talked about procurement and finding an organization to lease this out. How does that look with our Indigenous Commission and our Indigenous neighbors to feel that this is a space for them, and yet an outside or maybe internal, but a separate entity will be running it? How does that work together? Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, Councilmember Matthews. And that is some of those are some of the details. I know that City Manager Clifton, Rose, Rebecca, and myself wanted to get together and start to talk about, especially as spring is coming. And now that we're finally able to get some of these mitigation and remediation efforts completed, and because we need to figure out what that process resembles and what that procurement process resembles, and ensuring that we're checking all those boxes, but also doing as hopeful or intended kind of thing. And that it's a fine line with procurement rules on that. So it's not, it's one that I want to also have a procurement professional, one of our procurement coworkers there at the table with us too, to ensure that we're setting this up correctly, doing it correctly, and following all guidelines and processes, but also ensuring that with City Council's direction to Parks and Recreation was that building is to be the Indigenous Community Cultural Center. So knowing that we've got those two sides of the table, how do we get it to meet in the middle and make this happen? So I would hope that I can schedule that meeting even prior to the end of March, so that way we have an update for the next Indigenous Commission meeting regarding that process, or what those steps will resemble.
Right, because, just hearing Commissioner Marks, say that the students are already planting seedlings and they're taking pride and ownership in it. All of a sudden I'm thinking about someone leasing the property and going in and just wiping out landscaping and starting it again, or something without really clear coordination and making sure that, something like that doesn't happen unintentionally. And that it's a collective, collaborative effort. And I don't know how you do that with bringing in an agency or organization to run it, but I want to make sure that we preserve the investment that our youth is putting into this property already, so they don't feel down the road like it was taken from them. So, and I don't know how you do that,
Yep.
but I just want to bring acknowledgement to that and make sure that we're being sensitive.
Couldn't agree more. And we do also have this greenhouse right here. So even if that's an opportunity for any of the germination of these seedlings that are occurring with some of our student pupils, if we can even transfer them into the greenhouse as a next step, we can even work through some of those issues, especially if the inside of this particular building is not ready to accommodate or something like that. Always happy to come up with some type of innovative idea so that we can keep that part of the process moving along. Any other questions about where city staff are in this process, what to look forward to this in the next month, and any next steps? Commissioner Lance, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch back on the cleanup preparation at the end of May, maybe before school starts. With that cleanup, is there some kind of dumpsters or something like that on site for people to use? I
There
know-
are absolutely, there's both recycle bins and trash bins that park staff utilize from both those types of items that are gathered from many of our other park locations and park grounds. I think that a lot of it will be some of what the students have already taken upon themselves. There's going to be some litter cleanup, especially when April and May are some of our windier type months. So there's always going to be some litter cleanup. I heard Commissioner Marks loud and clear. I've seen it too with the glass that's been broken from some of the older windows on the buildings. So can start not only clean up, but start to figure out what the best use would be for temporary mitigation of that. And just honestly start to beautify the area a little bit. It is sensitive, so we do need to take it step by step and ensure that we're doing it within whatever leaseor, licensee, or city's rights within everything. Plus coordinate it, as Councilmember Matthews was stating, we do have that adopted concept design that shows where all the proposed locations are of everything, including like ethnobotanical areas. I can share that too, if that's a good reminder for all commissioners. Let me start digging that item up just to share what some of that looks like again and the surroundings around this building within that 8.5 acres. Because there'll be, I think, a lot of planning that will need to occur to figure out what comes first, and in what order to ensure that we're doing things that make sense for everyone. Let me pull that up. It's a large PDF, so it may take a second here to fully arrive for us.
And I'd like
I'm
to
sorry, go
touch
ahead.
on the word, and I'd like to just touch on the word procurement. When you're talking about that, I know that has to do with work and stuff like that, but what's the definition of that? Like what does that entail when you're talking about all the procurement process?
So the City of Flagstaff's procurement departments, that's our purchasing department, and including grants, contracts. So any contract or procurement process goes through them. We do have certain thresholds, and those thresholds are based off dollar amounts. We need to ensure that we are following, there are very strict procurement processes, since we are a government agency with the City of Flagstaff to follow. So we need to ensure that we are following all of those.
Amy?
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Just another question on that, another thought that came up, and I don't know if the commission, is this something that they'd be interested in. But again, kind of getting back to what Commissioner Marks said, is there a way to maybe create a space down where the botanical and pollinator gardens are, to designate that more of like a community garden for the Indigenous community, to where they can, if they're interested in doing this, instead of, because we're going to bring in a organization to run the cultural center, but where they could come in and put their hands to the dirt and provide their own heart and soul into a designated area that is not infringed by whoever takes over this space and what they have, if that makes sense, and if that is something that the commission thinks would be beneficial. Just so I just feel like there's a risk of us trying to do a good thing and then bringing in an organization that we don't know who that's going to be right now, and detaching our main goal of creating a space that our Indigenous youth and adults can come and feel that it's their own. Does that make sense? So
It
maybe have a
does. No, absolutely makes sense. And again, this is just the concept design. I do want to point out that at some point in time, city staff are to go back to city council to re-examine the location of this skate park and pump track. That was the direction with City Council when this was adopted a little bit over a year ago in December of 2022. The white square right here with the GH, that's the greenhouse that exists today. And then there's proposed orchard and a community garden right there. It doesn't mean that that's exactly where all of that has to go. We're certainly not going to move the greenhouse, but so there's some flexible space around that. And obviously, and then there's water there. That's a bonus to this. Directly to the south of the future Indigenous Community Cultural Center is an ethnobotanical and or pollinator garden. And then on the east side, the traditional ceremonial space. So, you know, I think that could be something where the Indigenous Commission could provide some direction to city staff if there was a preference on an area to start with any of these outdoor amenities versus what's on the inside of the building. Because yes, I definitely don't want to we don't need to be doing anything twice. We want to do it right and ensure that it's in the proper location. And we've got some pieces here that are a little bit flexible and that can move around when we're talking about gardens, orchards, and pollinator spaces.
Yeah, thank you. I just think that it's important for us to have that dialogue instead of maybe thinking we're waiting for us to get further down the road and then say, oh my gosh, sorry, it's already, set in stone, or we already committed this to whatever organization comes in. So I want to make sure that the commission is actively involved in this early stage when it's still just kind of raw concept, to kind of claim their space in things that they want to envision to make this really, really something special.
Agree.
And Rebecca has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. I would love to add on to that. So your concerns, Councilmember Matthews, are ours as well. And we want to make sure that through this planning, and that's why we're here today, is to start these conversations. This is the beginning of what I believe we see as a very back and forth conversation, probably outside of the, with extra meetings with those commissioners that can participate. I want to just provide a little bit of caution. I know there's excitement around this, but the city does have processes and procedures that we need to go through. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Commissioner Marks, I hear you, and I would love to see some new plantings out there, but especially if we can get you all out there to see it, there's still a lot of just debris on the ground and old asphalt and parking lot and things like that excuse me one moment.
I'll step in. So things like that would need to have some remediation and mitigation efforts too in order to make it this future space.
Yes, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves is what I'd like to say, but we are at the table. We want to participate very actively with you. We're not going to get out in front of this commission in anything that we do, and I think we request the same.
I think it's just important to note that pros will do everything they can to keep the commission informed, as well as me, so that I can inform community members. So those are some things that we are, making sure that there's that communication is in place. So Amy and Rebecca, is this complete as far as your presentation is concerned?
It is, unless there's any further questions.
So we'll hand it back over to Co-Chair Lance.
Thank you. Thank you all for your input on there. It's very interesting to hear about all the many steps that have to happen in order for this project to get off the ground. Next item is number 6, which is discussion items. City of Flagstaff Open Space Section request. Sylvia Struss, Coordinator for Open Space Section, will provide a presentation. Open Space will have an interpretive sign for the pit house overlook at Picture Canyon. They would like to partner with the indigenous groups to decide what should be on that sign. Sylvia?
Thank you. Yat A. Sylvia Yinishiye. And I worked and lived out on the Navajo Nation in Chinle and Tuba City for about 20 years. So, and now my retirement job, my second act, is working for the City of Flagstaff Open Space section, which is part of Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Events Pros. And I'm gonna share my screen. Where am I? Okay. So can y'all see that? Picture Canyon? Okay. So the open space properties that the City of Flagstaff have is Picture Canyon, Natural and Cultural Preserve, and also McMillan Mesa Natural Area, which is opposite Buffalo Park, and Observatory Mesa as well. So in Picture Canyon, let me get this going. It was state trust land, and a group of citizens got together and approached City Council about saving Picture Canyon because it was being used as a dump, and people were grazing cattle and pretty much doing whatever they wanted. And in 2012, by citizen initiative, the City of Flagstaff acquired Picture Canyon. In case you haven't been there, the Rio de Flag runs through it. The Wildcat water treatment plant releases water into it every day, which creates a riparian habitat. It has Flagstaff's only waterfall. And there are many archaeological sites, including 700 petroglyphs that go through it. So this is a map of Picture Canyon's formal trails. So I think you can see my mouse here. This is the El Paso Flagstaff Road is where the trailhead is. And the Don Weaver Trail is this blue section up here. The Tom Moody Trail is this section here, the green, and then the Arizona Trail comes into and goes through Picture Canyon as well. And the archaeological sites are noted here: the Historic Railroad Trestle, Petroglyph Overlook, the Pit House Overlook, and the Waterbird Petroglyph site are the main ones that are there. So at the Pit House, let me go to the next one. In Picture Canyon and at the Pit House in particular, there's many beautiful native plants, such as the banana yucca. You can see all the ducks that were here. This was about a month ago, that picture. And many petroglyphs, such as the one on the bottom right there is overlooking from Petroglyph Overlook. If you look down to the left, that's the big panel there. We applied for and received a grant from Arizona State Parks for $126,000 to restore a huge series of unauthorized trails at Picture Canyon, including in the Pit House area. So unauthorized trails, they damage the native plants that are there. It only takes 10 footfalls to kill a native plant. And so when people are going off the trail, that's what's happening. They interfere with archaeological resources, compact the soil so that native plants can't grow. People get lost. Maybe you've been lost out at Picture Canyon before. You can't get too lost, but it's stressful when that happens. And when people are walking off trail, they're also spreading invasive weed seeds too. So this photo is, the pit house is to the left of this photo, and all that area on the right is where people are wandering off trail. And this is our map of unauthorized trails. So the green trails are the formal trails, and all the pink and yellow and purple trails are unauthorized trails. So we've been working on trying to restore those trails to their natural state by raking where we can, raking and reseeding, and also putting up signs that are like restoration in progress, please don't go here. So this is an example of one of the trail restorations. This is just down in the background on the left. There is the El Paso natural gas facility. So there was a trail that kind of cut off the two main trails. And we raked and reseeded and laid down this jute netting. And then just a couple months later, the picture on the right is the result of that. So things are growing up through it, and then the jute netting eventually biodegrades within a couple years. This is down below the pit house. And you can see on the left, that's the original unauthorized trail, and on the right is the after fact. The Arizona Conservation Corps is working on those. So with the pit house, there's a kind of blurry picture of it. Sorry, I didn't have a better picture of it. I need to go take some more better pictures. So included in the grant is money to create signs. Most of them are going to be restoration in progress signs, but also an interpretive sign at the pit house overlook, because when people go down there, they don't really know what they're looking at. They just see, they literally just see this, and kind of like walk down. And I oversee the wildlife camera that's there. So I see that people just kind of walk down and then they turn around and walk back up going, what is that? And so we want to educate people about what it is, but at the same time, we need to balance. We don't want people to know too much about it because we don't want them to wreck it, right? So what we tell people when we do a guided hike is explain how this would have made a house 1,300 years ago, that the yucca that's there is believed to have been farmed. We point out a pottery sherd or two and definitely tell them it's illegal to take anything from there. And that archaeologists believe that this whole area is believed to have been a village, and that there are other unexcavated pit houses that are there. We also always point out that this is traditional Indigenous land and a sacred site to many different Indigenous people in Northern Arizona. So we talked with the archaeologists here in Flagstaff, and this is what we got back. This is the short version of what they thought the sign should say. And the long version was about 4 pages long. So I was like, okay, we're trying to make a sign here, not a book. The basic points are like, how old is this? How would a pit house have been used? Maybe a picture or drawing of what it would have looked like. It's a preserve site, so please don't take anything. And so those are the main ideas that the archaeologists came up with. And here's some photos of what an illustration on the sign of a pit house might look like. And then I have 3 pages of notes from the archaeologists too. But we kind of look in open space and at pros and say, well, what should it look like? What should this sign look like? What should it say? I've been to various national park sites, and some of the signage is kind of offensive. So what we wanted to do was to get Indigenous participation in the development of this sign. So the Arizona Trail Association, when they were building the Arizona Trail, they did that and they got together with the communities that the Arizona Trail is going through and saying, like, what do you want what do you think that this sign should say? What do you want in this? And so this is from the Gila River Indian community. I'm sorry, it's cut off there on the left. And let's see. So what they were most interested in having in here were the plants for food and for basketry and for medicine. And so that's what the Gila River community wanted to include on their sign. And then there's another one from Tohono O'odham, where again, they wanted to focus on the plants and the basket, especially the basket tree, because it was so important to the culture. But then, of course, you can see in this sign that it has like leave no trace and sort of the regulatory stuff is in there as well. So we wanted to get input and participation from Indigenous groups on creating this interpretive sign for the pit house. And I have reached out to the Navajo Nation. I will turn this off. Stop sharing. Sharing. So I've reached out to the Navajo Nation cultural resources. I talked with Richard Begay there, and he said, you know, we're super busy and we don't really have time to do this. We appreciate that you're asking, but we can't really do this. But they want to be kind of included in whatever it is that we come up with. Like, please send it to us so that we know what's happening. It's been a little difficult to get with anybody from the Hopi tribe because I guess the Hopi Office of Cultural Preservation ran out of money a couple of years ago, and I don't know that they've had anybody there, but I did get some connections with the Stewart Koya Yumtua. And so I have left him a message and emailed him, and we'll see if I can hear back from him. I talked with Gertrude Smith from the Yavapai Apache Cultural Resource Center and also sent her an email. And then I've been trying to reach someone at the Wallapai Cultural Center as well. So any other ideas? So I wanted to let you all know that we are working on this and that we would like Indigenous participation in the development of this sign. And if you have any contacts, oh, and I also emailed Lyle, what's his last name? Lyle Belenqua of the Hopi tribe. To see if we can get him involved too. So if you have any ideas of other people that I can reach out to, or if you want to be involved with this process, and you know, and how you think we should move forward with this. So that's me.
Any questions? Sylvia, maybe you can, is there like meetings that you have discussing these items at certain times? Maybe you can share that with the commissioners so they can maybe come to one of your meetings or something?
Yep, I'm just trying to figure out who to invite to the meeting. Yeah.
Well, if any of the commissioners here are interested in helping out, they can reach out to me and I can give you their contact information.
Okay, that would be great.
Well, Sylvia, I'll be seeing you next Wednesday.
Yes. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi. So
Kimberly is one of our open space stewards. So
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Hosky. Any others who are?
I can think about
This is
more people.
Commissioner Diai.
I'd be interested.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Kadiai.
Sylvia, is there a time frame for this at all? Or is it just, we'll just do this until we get everybody's input on this and get a nice board on it, or
Well, we have Arizona Conservation Corps doing their last stint out at Picture Canyon this fall. And so part of their job is to install signs. And so it would be great if we get the sign made and installed by the fall, but I also know that things work slower than that. So we may be installing the sign ourselves, maybe next spring or something, so. But the sooner we can spend this grant, the better. So if we can design the sign and get it manufactured, by, when are we supposed to be done with this? By December 2024. If we can pay for the manufacture of the sign by then, that would be best.
this is Commissioner Cuddy. If
Mhm.
you could put me on your list, I would like to go with this as well. One of the archaeologists, Neil Weintraub, he led a
Mhm.
group there that helped to preserve much of those dwellings there. And so our running group, NATRA, that he
Mhm.
founded, we go through there and he explains things as well, but I do see, because I run a lot on trails, I see a lot of off-use people, using trails that they're not supposed to be on. And I just cringe at just the way they're messing up the ecosystem there,
Mhm.
all that. So I understand what you're talking about. I go to Picture Canyon a lot. That's where I run a lot too. So, but yes, please keep me on your list. I'd like to do my part in that. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
I'll send those to you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Rose. Yeah, I appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate your words. Back to co-chair Lance.
Okay, looks like we're at item number 7. Thank you, Sylvia, for that presentation, all that information. Looks like we're at informational items to the commission or from commission members, staff, and future agenda items requested. So any items you want to add? I believe for the next meeting. Is there anybody that'd like to add? Okay.
Or any announcements. We have 1 minute. If there's none, you can adjourn.
Okay, looks like we're at the adjournment of
I
the
have
meeting.
I have an announcement before you adjourn. I just woke up. No, I'm just teasing. It's been a while since I've been at this meeting, but the conversation was very interesting and engaging. I wanted to announce that I'm a board member for the Flagstaff Unified School District, and my term ends December 2024, so the end of this year, and I'm seeking people of color to replace me. One of you on this board need to run for the school board for the Flagstaff Unified School District. Darren is raising his hands as well as Diane. So get your applications.
I was pointing to
And
Commissioner Marks. I was on my screen. He's over there. He's right
he's
there.
a staff member. He can't run.
Oh,
Yeah, so truly need someone from the Indigenous community to run. I'm also trying to recruit someone from the Hispanic community as well as the African American community. So if you can help me recruit, we need representation on the school board. There's nothing more discouraging than to walk on my first graduation walk onto a podium and realize I'm the only person of color on that podium. That was sad to see. We need to change that for the interests of our children. So come on and recruit people.
Mhm. And to mention that 25% of our students with FUSD is Indigenous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great information. Thank you all for attending. Sylvia, Rebecca, Amy Hagan, appreciate all your info, and all the commissioners. Thank you. We'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. And it is now 1:02. Thank you, everybody. It's good to see your face, Jenna.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Have a good day.